Welcome to Mysteries, Monsters, and Mayhem.
I'm Shannon Lawrence.
And I'm MB Partlow.
Quick content warning before we get started. This podcast may contain language and disturbing content, so enter at your own risk.
Hi. Good evening.
Good evening. It's very vampire-y.
Thank you.
Hello.
That was very riffraff.
Yay! That's what I was going for. I used to be able to do riffraff really well.
So we are recording in a different place and a different time of day, different clothing. I don't usually have my pajamas.
Different level of inebriation. We don't usually have any
True.
alcohol in our systems. Usually ever.
Different level, because we're on the 10th floor.
Indeed. We're in Las Vegas. And we're attending a writing conference.
And I really want to sing Viva Las Vegas, but I like our three listeners too much.
You want to be kind. And that means not singing. Yeah, so this is the first day, really. I mean, we both got here yesterday, but there weren't classes, which I think is really good on the part of the organizers, so it's a week-long conference. But the first day, it's really just for networking, going and seeing some of the vendors, that sort of thing. And then Friday, it's a book signing, which, by the way, I did get a table for that. And I turned it down because I was like, I don't know. If I were driving...
haul them here and then haul them back.
Yeah, and people were posting that, they packed a full suitcase of books plus this, and you got to pay for that, right? And they got searched, and one person, the TSA went through every single book. I don't know what they were looking for. I keep my drugs in here.
Right. Flattened between there's one marijuana leaf between each page.
Yeah. I wanted to come one time before I actually thought about having a table.
I think I saw somebody say, because somebody said, well, what are the sales like? And people are like, well, you're kind of selling to writers, so they want to support you, but they don't have any money.
Yes. And there's so many.
Yeah.
So, yeah. I don't think it would have been worthwhile for me. I'm not sure I would have made back the money because you did have to pay for the table. So.
Yes. I mean, it wasn't exorbitant, I don't think.
No, but I paid what? $10 for a table at an open recently didn't sell a book, so then I'm out. So, yeah. Anywho. So, all we've done so far is that we haven't done touristy stuff yet.
I think we're going to do some touristy stuff tomorrow.
Yeah, we're looking at even getting an Uber or taking the monorail.
And because we're a little bit lazy, it'll probably be Uber. It's not a Uber.
Uber. If we can figure out where the hell... Because in Vegas, they're like, oh, we need the taxis to still be able to make money. So if you get an Uber or a Lyft, then you have to go to some weird, bizarre back of the hotel.
Yeah.
Which feels very...
very safe.
Shady and unsafe. Which I guess is maybe the point because they wanted to dissuade that. But
go stand out by the loading dock.
Yeah.
Although the Uber dropped me off right in front.
Did they? Because they weren't for a while. They weren't allowed to for a while.
Well,
or they defied the rules.
That could be. But he said it was a Lyft, not an Uber. But there was a sign up front that said ride share.
Okay.
Lane.
My taxi driver did not believe in stop signs.
That's crazy.
We straight up, there was another car, and it was 2 lanes, but there was a big, giant garbage dumpster in our lane on the other side of the intersection for some reason, because Vegas, I don't know.
Yeah.
So there was another car, and they were approaching that line first, but they actually stopped, and so my taxi driver didn't stop. He gunned it and went through so he could get in front of him. I was like, I'm going to die before I even get to the hotel.
So I connected with another writer, a lovely young woman. I think she said she was 50, but she looked really young. I'm like, really? What is your skincare regime? And she was asking a lot of questions. What's it like to live here? Do you like the scenery? I'm like, are you asking him or me? Because I'm like, it's Vegas. I don't know.
What scenery? All I see is neon and concrete.
Yes. And she was like, how many lanes of traffic is this? I'm like, can you not count? I was being polite.
She was so none of these things were said aloud.
Yeah. And I'm looking and I go, it's 6 lanes of traffic in one direction.
Down the strip?
But no, coming from the airport
gotcha.
before you get to the strip. And I was just like,
I was just trying to survive. I didn't count any lanes of traffic. I probably counted stop signs.
I could
and
not
lights.
fasten. I thought for sure I would die because I could not fasten my seatbelt.
Oh,
I had the thing, and I'm like, I could not find the slot in which to stick the.
Yeah, I had a whole adventure, and I don't think we have time for me to go into my adventure just to get here. But did you all know that there's a cutoff, even if you're well ahead of your airplane, that there's a cutoff for when you can check luggage, basically. And since I used to not check luggage, that's why I got in that situation. I always used to just bring the size that I could check. Well, or not check, but I could put in the carry-on. Yeah. And so I went to get that size suitcase for my daughter, which, by the way, my bigger suitcase is full, so it wouldn't have worked anyway. I mean, I was packing for a week and a half.
Yeah.
With business during the day and maybe going out at night. And then my husband and I are staying here an additional, 4 or 5 days. So I had to pack for that too. And anyway, I got to the airport 45 minutes before my flight was supposed to take off. Mm-hmm. And they were like, nope, luggage cutoff is done. So we're going to have to rebook you. And 5 hours later.
On a flight with no seats.
That's the very short version of it. On a flight with no seats, as it turned out. Yep. The person was very nasty. United Airlines, hi. And she rebooked me on a plane that actually didn't have room for me. But luckily, when I called customer service later for the second time that day, the guy was really fast to be like, I'm just going to put you in an upgrade and we're going to comp that. So that was nice. But I didn't get here until really late last night. So MB got to go out to dinner with strangers.
I did. I was the only American at the table. That was kind of fun. So there was a lady from Germany and 2 Canadians and a Brit. A hipster Brit.
Hipster Brit.
Really. I'm sitting there looking at him, and he was a very attractive young man. And all I could think of was, he has no pores. What is his skincare regime? Because he was talking, and it was really funny because his wife is the writer. He's here to learn the business part.
Oh, okay.
And they didn't both come. They decided only one of them should come, and it should be him, so that he could learn all the business stuff, because he takes care of the business side.
Wait, where was he from again? The Brit?
Somewhere in Great Britain.
Okay.
He said where, but I...
Oh, no, I just couldn't remember which nationality it was.
Essex. He was in Essex.
Oh, okay. I had a friend from Essex.
So, yeah, he knew a lot about everything. So.
And she's not saying that sarcastically, as in he mansplained everything. He just really knew some things. Right?
Both. But it was funny because, I'm sitting there going, really? He's got miraculously smooth skin. Like, is it a rubber mask?
Maybe that's what happens when you live somewhere with no sun.
Well, he's lived in so many different places. He was living in Jordan.
Wow.
During, he and his wife and I think child were in Jordan when they had the shutdown for COVID.
Oh.
And he said it was awful over there because they basically couldn't leave their apartment except for emergency shopping for 3 months. And then he's like, the airport was closed for 13 months. And they were teaching.
Oh, okay.
So, and he's like, and the online teaching sucked. And I'm like, yes, I think that was a worldwide.
Universal.
Yeah, that was worldwide. So they kind of went, let's see if we can do it with this writing thing. So she does the writing and he does the business stuff. But she also has an agent.
Okay.
So I'm like.
I mean, there is a lot of shit you have to do even with an agent these days. So it doesn't go as far as it used to.
Well, when he was talking about all the stuff that he takes care of, I thought about, I'm going to go home and tell Joe he's a slacker.
I know. Hey, Jeffrey, you make my book covers, but you could be doing the business side of it, except I'm the one with the business degree, so I guess that would be kind of silly.
A little.
Fine. He'll keep making the covers, though.
Yes.
So I would like you to know that they have a vending machine. They don't have they have mini cake vending machines. There are literally vending machines here for slices of cake. Giant. I posted a picture on our Facebook and Instagram today of us in front of the cake machine. So people may have seen that already. If not, you can go back and look for it. But, yep, slices of cake. There's 5 different kinds of cake in the one that we saw. If there's one that has carrot cake, that's a different one, so.
And one of the one you see pictures of the most, because apparently writers just can't resist cake. One is rainbow colored. Mm-hmm. And it is a very pretty slice of cake. Giant slices. There's chocolate fudge, black and white.
Confetti, rainbow, red velvet.
And some apparently have carrot.
Okay. Yeah, and they also have shoe vending machines for if you break a heel.
Yes, or if you're out, like people come for their bachelorette party, mm-hmm. and you've been wearing your heels all night. Yep. They have these vending machines where you can get a little pair of flats.
It makes a lot of sense on this strip because all you do here is walk and drink and eat and drink and walk some more.
Yes,
pretty much. So there is a crazy amount of people here, and it's off season.
Yeah, this is their slow time.
Yeah. Because the person who organized this conference said that. So it's... I don't even want to process what it's like. That's probably why there's not as much smoke as we feared, because there's not as many people, because it's off season, but it's still really smoky, and by the time we got to the keynote speaker at the end of the day, I was sneezing and coughing, and yeah. One
of my favorite writers, Jen Lancaster, wrote about getting married in Vegas.
My grandma got married here.
Well, they had a very small wedding, but they flew all their friends in. What they didn't realize was she planned their wedding for the exact same time as the porn convention.
Nice!
Or the porn. Yeah. So they were by the pool, hanging out by the pool, and there's all these women with pneumatic breasts walking around with little scraps of bathing suit.
Now, I remembered here, because I've been here before and you have not, getting everybody with the flyers and the little coupons and the stuff to hand to you, and you're not supposed to make eye contact with anybody. My problem is, there's also, I don't remember there being showgirls all up and down the strip saying, you want to come get your picture taken with me? You want to come they have been pushier than the people trying to hand us stuff.
The people have not been pushy at all with the stuff. They kind of go...
Yeah, which is not at all...
You want this?
Like what I've experienced in the past. And also, it's been tickets to shows and stuff. Like the one guy that I said, no thank you, and then he's like, I like your hair though.
Yes.
That was for the body show, which actually I've always wanted to go to that one. It's the one with the real human bodies.
I saw that when it was in Denver.
Okay. So...
It is cool.
Yeah, but it was always, when I came before, it's,
they were like
girls to go out with you and sex work and stuff like that, and they just shove them at you. If you're with a man, he is going to get all of them, even if he is carrying a toddler and you're pregnant. I say this from experience.
I was going to say that sounds oddly specific.
Yeah, very specific. And I haven't seen any of that yet, and maybe it's the difference between walking night and day. But the showgirls are everywhere.
I walked last night when
and you didn't hit that either.
I mean, no, they were out, and they were like slapping them.
Yeah.
Like they'd have a stack of tickets or little flyers in their hand, and they would smack them against their palm, but they weren't like shoving them at you.
Yeah, and it was very aggressive before. So it is different than I remember, but it's been quite a few years because I'm not a huge fan of Vegas. So
well, and it was, a Monday, and today is a Tuesday, so they may get more aggressive toward the weekend.
That's true. And we probably came a weekend because we had the type of jobs that we couldn't really take time off, except maybe a day or something. So that would make sense. But yeah, it's, and I don't want to, so I have the conflict if I don't want to be rude and not meet the showgirls' eyes because,
right.
And so I do. And then you want to go get a picture taken? No, I don't want to get a picture taken with you. And I can get plumage at home if I really want it that bad.
I would get my picture taken. Because you know me. I will take a picture of anything with anybody.
Right, but they want you to pay.
But they want you to pay for it. They don't tell you that up front.
Right.
But they expect to be tipped for that.
Right.
And I'm like, no, thank you.
All right. I guess we've poured out some of our experiences so
vomited
far.
Out our Vegas experience. That was the Vegas vom.
There you are. And so I geared mine for this week and next week around the fact that we were going to be in Vegas. This one, I say it's mayhem. There's not murder, I've been kind of a softie lately, which is funny because I replaced, and if you know what it is, I replaced the Snowden murders with one of these topics. So, yeah, I can't continue to be this big a softie, I guess. My cases tonight are mayhem, and I find them sad. So I'm going first, and then Envy will follow me.
I will have something a little lighter.
Yeah.
But just a little.
All right. So I'm going to cover 2 stories in this one, and one of them you will have heard of, probably more than enough, and yet there's still disinformation out there. So that one I'm going to cover second, and I'm pretty sure you'll know as soon as I say the person's name. But the first one is one that not a lot of people have heard of, and whether that's because this involved a young black woman or just it wasn't exciting because, maybe murder wasn't involved or whatever.
Yeah.
Maybe it just didn't register that way. But that's why I wanted to cover this, because I stumbled on this story. And I don't think it's something, I had never heard of it. And I wanted her story to get out because it's sad either way, no matter what happened. So, in the early morning hours of Saturday, September 9th, 2017, at around 1:15 a.m., a 19-year-old woman named Kanika Jenkins attended a birthday party with some friends at the Crown Plaza Chicago O'Hare Hotel in the Rosemont suburb of Chicago. That was a lot. There's a lot of words there. At 2:17 a.m., she posted a Snapchat from the bathroom, but men at the party were aggressively pursuing the girls, and they weren't enjoying themselves. The guys were being super pushy. And at about 3 a.m., she was leaving with some friends when it was discovered that Kanika had left her phone and car keys in the room, and she had driven there. And so they said, basically, these friends went, all right, you stay here, because she was acting very messed up, and people could see that.
Okay.
We will go back. We will find it. We will come back. So just wait for us here. And so they left her and they went back up to the room to see if they could find it. And when they returned 15 minutes later, they think it was 10 to 20, 10,
right.
It differed. She was gone. She had been kind of swaying and having trouble. One friend had reported that when he got to the party, he gave her a hug and she was very much leaning on him and swaying and just uncustomarily messed up.
Right.
They started searching for her in the hotel, with texts going back and forth about her. One text said simply, "Find Kanika." Another one said, "I can't believe y'all lost her." At about, hindsight, right?
Yeah.
Maybe one of us should have stayed with her. But these are kids out for a party.
Birthday party.
They thought, we'll leave her here instead of dragging her back through when she's messed up. It's not their fault. At about 4:20 a.m., the friends contacted Teresa Martin, Kanika's mom, to see if maybe she had slipped out and made it home. Maybe she really had her keys and she'd found them on her. They didn't know, but she was not there. Teresa got to the hotel around 5:30 a.m. to help them search and started pounding on hotel room doors looking for her daughter. I was under the impression that this was a single mom situation. There was never any mention of the dad.
I would do that if one of my children went missing.
Yeah,
I would wake up every fucker in that hotel.
Yeah, and she did. When Teresa went to the front desk at about 7:14 a.m. and told them what was going on, management said they couldn't provide the hotel's video footage unless Kanika were officially reported as missing to the police. And we all know how this works with an adult. Yeah, you can't just be like, she's missing, and they'll be like, okay, well, she was out partying. She had told her mom she was going somewhere different, which we'll talk about a little bit later.
How old was she?
She was 19, I believe.
Okay.
Yeah, 19.
Not really old enough to know better.
Yeah.
I mean,
and she was a very responsible girl, and I will cover that as well, because I think it's important to know. Anyway, she said, can one of you, can your security view the footage and just see what happens?
Tell me.
And they said, nope, we need the police. So they basically just...
What dicks?
Yeah. Yeah, pretty much. I'm sure they thought, these kids are partying. She's probably still up in the party. They had reports on this party and had done nothing about it. And if they were leaving at 3 a.m. when it was still happening, it went all night at this party.
Wow, I'm so sad I wasn't their neighbor.
Yeah. But that's the thing. I imagine they were like, this is an overprotective parent. I can see probably that they thought it was something completely different. Probably. Anyway, when they called the police, then the police said, okay, first of all, she's 19. She is an adult. Her friends are probably covering for her. She's probably passed out up in the room or something, and they don't want the mom to go up there. And, they said, give it a few more hours. Call us if you still haven't heard from her. So they stay there at the hotel, and they're still looking around. But it wouldn't be until 1:15 p.m. on Saturday. Her sister went in, and she was able to officially file that report. At least it wasn't the 24-hour wait. They did still make this family wait a few hours, though. And she filed it, and then the police contacted the hotel, and now she filed it at 12:46. It was 1:15 p.m. when the police called the hotel and said she is missing. Okay, here's your official statement. She's missing. So,
and I'm sorry, but the hotel security, somebody who worked at that hotel, could have looked at it and
they
said,
didn't want to. Mm-hmm. No, you're right. They didn't want to. They didn't want to be bothered. They thought it was another party person, and they were like, whatever, they're here. So they did it. So hotel security looked through the footage first, but they didn't find anything. And then so the police came then, and they were like, okay, can we look through the footage? And so they let the police do this. And I don't know how much later this was that they started looking through it, because first they started looking at the exit cameras.
Oh, right.
All right. Do we see her leaving? Do we see her leaving with a person? No, they don't see her leaving. It wouldn't be until 10 p.m. that they found the first bit of internal footage that had shown her exiting an elevator. And this is why these two are eerie. They both involve an elevator. Mm-hmm. So, this footage is available online. I will try to remember to post it, but since it's weird to try and post a video ahead of time and schedule it, I can't guarantee it, but it is available online. So first we see her the door opens and she kind of peeks out and she's looking around, and then she steps off. And here's the thing. I found it so disturbing to watch this. Not in the same way as the second story I'll do, but she was very inebriated. Her head looked very heavy. And she'd walk forward and her chest would go first because her head would kind of fall back. Because your head is heavy when you're drunk, right? And at one point she's kind of zigzagging across the hall because she's stumbling, and then she gets to the wall and she kind of bumps into the wall, and then she lays her head on it, again, that heavy head, and she's just kind of dragging along the wall. So you can see that she's on something. She's swaying and she's having trouble getting it, but she just keeps walking like she was a little machine, just walking. Then you go to the next camera and she's walking down this hallway, and she wandered, at one point, I guess she wandered into a men's room it was empty, and wandered back out, and she just kept going, and who knows what she was thinking. She
must have had a goal in mind.
I'm going to get out. I'm going to get to the car.
I need to get to X.
Yes. She must have, because I will tell you there's determination, even if it is this kind of inebriated.
I wonder if she was looking for her friends. I
imagine, how fast would time pass if you're sitting there?
Yes, and maybe she got off on the wrong floor, obviously.
Yeah, because she ended up on a mostly deserted floor parts of it were under construction, as it turned out. So the cameras, and here's the thing, the cameras were motion activated. Mm-hmm. So that's why they caught her, but then they didn't catch things in between. She ended up in the kitchen. And the kitchen was not being used by the hotel at all. They no longer had a thing there because a restaurant had opened.
Okay.
Instead, and it had its own, it must have been new construction or something. I don't know. I just know that there was now a restaurant, and so their old kitchen was no longer in use. But, and that's the thing, is that it shows there's footage and there's motion activation. Nobody else went near this kitchen during this time. In the footage, she wanders around through the various areas of the large kitchen. It looked to me, as I watched it all, it looked to me like she wandered into the kitchen and kind of walked around, then she wandered out of the kitchen, and then she came back into the kitchen for whatever reason. According to the time code, she was actually walking around for over an hour before she got to the kitchen. I imagine they're looking on the upper floors for her. And here she is on this lower floor.
Yeah, they're looking for her where they saw her.
Because they'd left her by an elevator, right? And then she got on the elevator and went, I don't even know where. Police launched a physical search for her then, of course, because they're like, okay, she's here somewhere. Let's find her. So they launched this physical search for Kanika. It was ultimately a hotel employee who found her inside a working freezer in that shut-down kitchen. It was 12:48 a.m. on Sunday. She was lying on her side in a corner of the freezer. There are photos available, and I will not be posting these photos. Let's say I was disgruntled with one of the websites that had clearly gotten their hands on photos that weren't meant to be released to the public.
Oh.
There are some that just kind of show her back as she was in position originally. But this website got photos of her after they had moved the body and close-ups of her face and stuff like that. And I was like, she wouldn't want this.
No.
You know, it bothered me. So I will not be posting those. I will post pictures of her when she was alive. That's what you guys get on Instagram. Anyway, she was lying on her side in a corner of the freezer with her face down on the floor in the corner, very much in the corner. And she was dead. Once she was missing. In the video footage does show she had that shoe on all the way through the kitchen. And a hair tie and a tube of lip gloss were lying next to her. Her shoe was lying about 2 feet away against the opposite wall, almost diagonally from where she was. And there was a bruise on her ankle and a small cut with some blood on her foot. But there was no other sign of trauma other than that they could attribute to hyperthermia. So it looked like whatever happened once she got it in that freezer, her shoe had come off or she'd taken off because there was something in her shoe, who knows.
Right.
And maybe on that cold, you know, like you get cut so easy when you in that certain stage of being cold and you don't feel it at first. So that's kind of what that seemed like to me. Her pants were dirty, but when you look at the tile floor, there's a bunch of dirt. It was not a clean freezer.
It was unused.
Which also I found upsetting that this promising young woman, she died in this filthy, face down in this filthy freezer. It really bothered me.
And who would leave anyway?
Yeah.
Who would leave a filthy freezer?
Yeah, and so it was open because they were going to let the restaurant use it for some extra storage, but there was not anything stored in there at that point. And it's like, I guess they were like, all right, you can use it, but you got to clean it. I don't know. Because there are rules. Let's be clear. I worked in a restaurant.
Oh, yeah.
There's cleanliness rules. Anyway, the freezer was around a corner, so no cameras actually showed what happened after she rounded that corner. You see her walk around. You cannot see her go into the freezer. You cannot see what happened. Though the kitchen was not in use anymore, it was thought that it was on. That freezer was on. Everything else was shut down, but that freezer was on for that restaurant, even though they hadn't put their stuff in there yet. So who knows how long it had been on? Nobody seemed to know. This was the type of walk-in freezer, by the way. It had a push knob on the inside, so you shouldn't be able to be locked in there unless somebody slides a bolt. And I couldn't see that. They never showed the outside of the door to me if I could see if there even was a bolt on this one to slide. But inside, you were supposed to be able to push your way out. If you were inebriated, you could get stuck in there. Otherwise, you should have been able to get out. When an autopsy was conducted, it was found that Kanika was inebriated with a blood alcohol level of 0.112. But that she also, and I think they said the legal limit there was like 0.08, but don't quote me on that. But she also had topiramate in her system, or topiramate. Topiramate is often sold as Topamax and is used to treat migraines and seizures. But it's also apparently used by some for weight loss. I have a story about that. Oh. So this was the third medication they put me on when I was seeing specialists because I have a permanent migraine. And they don't know what to do with me other than to throw shit at me, right? Medication. So this was the third thing they tried me on. And their selling point of the doctor, this is when I'd stopped going to the neurologist because he was more intent on studying other medical issues I had than my actual migraines. Even though he was the top neuro here in Colorado and I had to drive considerably to go visit him. But it was just a normal doctor that I went to then. And she was like, well, did you try Topamax yet? Which has the nickname Dopamax for a reason. I said, no. She said, oh, women love it because it helps you lose weight. And so I went on this, and let me tell you about helps you lose weight. I couldn't eat. As in, I literally gagged the whole time. I would eat at the time, because this wasn't a political issue yet, and this wasn't known, but I would eat a eight-pack, I think, of Chick-fil-A nuggets, and that was the only thing I could get down once a day.
Wow.
That's how bad, and I would gag the whole time I was eating it. So that's not just weight loss and other people don't. This is not universal. Okay, everybody has different reactions to it.
No, because I know other people who've taken it.
Yeah, and the reason it's called Dopamax, though, is it very much makes a lot of people on it, not everybody, zombies. Bear in mind, I can't nap. I've had insomnia since I was 12. I became full-on narcoleptic on this medication, and I had 2 toddlers.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
So how long
I was
did you
passing
take it?
out. I think I made it 2 months.
Wow.
because they said, give it more time because, you have to get used to the side effects. And I was like, no, I can't take care of my children. I'm a stay-at-home mom, and I can't take care of my children because I'm passing out randomly. It's terrible. I hated it.
I initially thought the name of the drug was Dopamax.
Right? Because that's what anybody who's been on it who had the negative side effects calls it.
I believe it was my friend Gretchen who said, no, the name is Topamax, but it's called Dopamax. Oh, okay, I get it now.
Yeah, I consider it to be really evil, but I'm sure some people benefit from it. I just can't imagine being on that on purpose for weight loss. But they must not have as extreme a reaction. No, I enjoy food. It takes a lot to put me off food, and I had to gag and choke it down.
Wow.
It was insane. So, anyway, just so you know a little bit about that since I've been on it. She did not have a prescription, which would indicate, I don't know if somebody dosed her with it, but I'm like, what good would it do? Because everybody wouldn't have the same reaction to it. It's not like Rohypnol or whatever.
Right.
Where you're guaranteed somebody passes out.
On the other hand...
But somebody could easily have a prescription for it.
Well, I'm also thinking if she was 19.
Yes.
So let's assume everybody at the party was 19, 20, 21, not old enough to be experienced.
It was being paid for by a local gang, it turned out, this party, but it was a birthday party for a friend of hers. So I don't know how old everybody was.
Okay.
Just to put that out there. But, I mean, there are a lot of things that could have happened, right? But I'm like, did somebody dose her with this, or was she on it for weight loss? Now, to me, I felt that she looked fine, but teenage girl, who knows? Maybe she felt she needed to lose weight. I don't know.
And she might not have known or thought about, what are the effects of alcohol going to be
precisely
with this drug?
The interactions with those two are bad. You're not supposed to drink when you're on it. And also, here's the other problem with that. The alcohol and the topiramate, they, especially together, can hasten hypothermia.
Nice.
Yes.
I knew alcohol.
So it would go that much faster, especially with both of them.
I once got mansplained by a Southerner that I was with my friend Bert, and she and I had made some joke. It was cold. It was when we lived in North Carolina. And it was a cold, which is not really cold, but it was a cold night. And we said something about, we need this kind of night, you need a shot of whiskey. Or it was something like that. Or you need to put some schnapps in the hot chocolate. Some comment like that. And this fucker mansplains to us, well, you know what really happens when you drink alcohol when it's cold out.
You lose your body heat.
And we looked at each other and looked at him and said, no shit, dumbass.
But we'll feel warmer, you little bitch.
I was like, I don't think, I'm like, it's 40 degrees and we have to walk, 50 feet. I think we'll be fine. Thank you.
We're not going on a hike in the Andes.
We're not going in the woods. Where all the keg parties were when I was a kid. When I was in high school. Everything was on state land.
Yes.
And you learned how to pee really fast because it was cold in the winter.
What is it? Isabel State Forest here? It's a woman's name.
Okay.
It's between us and San Isabel. There we go. Between us and Pueblo, us being Colorado Springs. It's where the castle is.
I've never been to the castle.
It was a popular place for... Here's the thing. It was a popular place for... Oh, fuck. Not keggers. It was raves. God, I knew I'd get there. Raves when I was in high school. And that terrifies me because the castle is terrifying now when you're sober. Because it's built by a crazy man. And his son actually died while he was building it. Oh, I can't remember the name of the castle. But anyway, it's terrifying. It's Bishop's Castle. It's just a bunch of metal he's repurposed or whatever and melded together, and at any second you could fall off an edge or whatever, and it's super high, and it's We went there and it was fantastic. Love it. He is batshit crazy.
Yep.
Also love that. And there's anti-government signs all over the place. But yeah, it was a huge place for raves back in the day. When I'm betting it was even less safe because that was decades ago.
Yeah.
And he's still been working on this place now. It's just his cousin project.
No, we didn't have raves. We just had keggers.
Oh, it's nice that we were so much further evolved
so
with the other drugs.
sophisticated with your underage drinking.
I turned down going, and I don't regret it. Friends did report that they'd seen her drink some cognac at the party, but that was it. No one has so far been able to state where the topiramate came from. They still don't know. Or it hasn't been released to the public. Ultimately, her death was found to be accidental by the Cook County coroner. It was fun looking at that report because I've seen those with our old job.
Right.
It was always Cook County Hospital and Cook County coroner. But anyway, Cook County coroner and police have said accidental death, but some of her friends and family think it was murder. Her sister has stated that she wouldn't have been able to open the heavy freezer door in her state. I disagree. I've worked with these freezers. The camera footage has not shown anyone else entering the kitchen or even being in her vicinity, but accusations of tampering with the footage have been made, and it's been insinuated that the hotel refusing to let them see the footage until a missing persons report was filed was so they could provide more time for a cover-up and image tampering. I think they were just dickbags. One popular conspiracy theory states that, ready for it? Selena Gomez paid to have someone harvest Kanika's kidney for her Chicago kidney transplant. Because it happened around that same time. She got a kidney transplant. There's a picture of her with her friend who donated the kidney. Or family, I don't remember. There's another young woman there. In addition, her family has sued the hotel for $50 million, as well as the restaurant and security staff, alleging they're responsible for her death because they did not secure the freezer or search appropriately for the missing girl. They have said that they felt that there was no urgency on the part of the hotel or the police, and they felt that that was because she was a black woman. I wasn't there, I don't know. But I do think her age played a part in it, and the fact that she was at a party. And I'm still surprised it was less than 24 hours. You know, it took a few hours, but they did get involved before 24 hours for an adult. So I'm like... I never saw missing at risk, but they must have decided, okay, missing at risk, right?
I'm like, what a dick move to be...
Right, just look at the fucking footage.
Yeah, just fucking look at it. I mean,
what is security doing anyway? Fucking hosers?
How very Canadian of you.
Thank you. Conspiracy theories and gag calls have run rampant, and some of her friends who were there have had to move out of the city due to death threats by internet sleuths and conspiracy theorists who have accused them of murdering Kanika.
Oh, God.
Yeah. Imagine that. You lose your friend in this situation, and then you have to leave the state or the city or whatever because people are accusing you of killing your friend.
Random fucking strangers.
And like you wouldn't already feel guilty, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm sure they feel guilty. But again, hindsight is 2020. They couldn't have known.
Well, and have you ever tried to take a drunk across a room? It's not fun.
At one of my first Mile High cons, one of our mutual friends, who I will not name, disappeared drunk off her ass. And there were two of us, me and one of our other mutual friends, trying to track her down through the hotel. And she was just hopping from party to party. It's hard in a hotel to find a person.
But I mean, so it actually makes sense. Okay, I mean, yes, in hindsight, leave somebody with her, but all right, you stay here.
Right. We're just going to,
you're safe
friends
here. Do we know how many?
No, I could not find the number.
So here's the thing. If this was a party that was sponsored in some way, shape, or form by a gang, say there were two friends, it could have been, okay, we park her on the bench here next to the elevators. I don't want to go back into that room by myself.
Well, especially with the guys having been harassing them, that would make sense.
And harassing them hard. So, okay, you stay here. We're going to go get your keys. That makes total sense.
Yeah.
You wouldn't want to go back in that room by yourself.
I get it. And they thought she was safe because she was away.
Yeah.
It's not like they purposely put her in danger. I just want to make sure that's there because I'm sure they've taken plenty of blame in different ways.
Shit.
At the time of her death, Kanika was working 2 jobs and intended to go to college to study nursing. She had just gotten a job at a nursing home and had said she was going out to celebrate by getting dinner and a movie with friends. Kanika's mom had just finished going through treatment for breast cancer, and Kanika had been her caregiver during that time. Oh. She was a good girl. It's basically my point here. So, and honestly, it doesn't mean that she didn't intend to go out and do dinner and a movie, and her friends went, hey, such and such is having a birthday party. Let's go there. And she did. So, yeah, it certainly didn't warrant dying the way she died. Eerily, Alyssa Lamb's, you recognize the name, a strange hotel incident also involves video footage and an elevator. On January 31st, 2013, Alyssa Lamb, a 21-year-old Canadian woman visiting California and staying at the Cecil Hotel, disappeared. Her family reported her missing on February 1st. Police searched the hotel and brought in scent tracking dogs, but they lost track of her and could not trace her anyway. On February 13th, the LAPD released video footage of Alyssa behaving strangely on an elevator. We've all seen it.
Yes, even I've seen it.
Oh my God, it was creepy. Like, it gives you goosebumps when you watch it, right? And I will also try to post this video footage. But again, I have to remember to go in and share during the correct hours in which I do not function typically. So, she was peeking out. For those who haven't seen it, there's two of you. She was peeking out of the elevator, stepping back at one point, and she pushes a bunch of the buttons. She puts her back, and she, like, against the side of the elevator over where the panel is, like she's hiding from somebody, peeks out, steps out, looks around, steps back in. This is going on for a period of time.
Isn't her mouth moving?
I think at one point it seemed like she was talking.
Like she was talking or something?
Yes. And so, and there's no sound, of course.
Right.
So it's bizarre. It's bizarre behavior. It looks like she's playing hide and seek with somebody or evading somebody, hiding somebody. And the elevator doors were not closing. For whatever reason, the elevator doors don't ever close during this.
What time of day or night was this?
Oh, it was late at night. Because it's when other people weren't walking around.
I was going to say, not that the elevator doors would stay open, but that would explain why people weren't complaining. What the fuck? Why isn't the elevator coming?
Yeah. Why isn't it coming up here to the third? No, there was really just nobody else about at the time.
The elevators here, as a quick aside, are magnificent. They're very quick, and there's a lot of them. Well, it's a big-ass hotel, but...
Yeah, but we've been in, like, equivalent-sized hotels.
That have, like, one creaky, scary elevator.
And you're just like, this time, I'll either make it upstairs or I won't make it home. Eventually, she got out of the elevator and walked away. And the doors closed without her inside. At some point after she walked away, it finally closed. Of course it did. So the footage was eerie, and it made it appear as if perhaps Alyssa had been trying to get away from someone and was looking for them in the hallway. The hotel is in the Skid Row area of downtown Los Angeles and was already notorious due to connections to other crimes. For example, Elizabeth Short, known as the Black Dahlia, who I'll be covering eventually, but I want to do at Modern Service, was last seen there before her violent murder. That was the last place she was seen alive.
Wow.
2 serial killers had also resided there at one point. Richard Ramirez, the Night Stalker, and Jack, and I don't know how to say this, Unterweger, an Austrian serial killer referred to as the Vienna Strangler, had both lived there for a time.
Nice.
It was thought she must have left the hotel and been harmed by someone, of course. Like, this is... At the same time, the hotel also worked as longer-term, low-cost housing for some, and there was conjecture that someone in the hotel had harmed her, which might explain the video footage, except that none of the video footage ever captured anybody else. She had posted about a creeper in the halls that she was trying to avoid, because she had a blog. But, you know, it wasn't named or anything like that where they could identify anybody. On February 19th, a hotel worker named Santiago Lopez went up to the roof to check the water tanks, as there had been reports of a low water pressure, a strange smell, an odd taste, and discoloration in the water in the hotel. There were 4 1,000-gallon tanks on the roof, and when he opened one of them, he found Alyssa Lamb's body floating face up in the water. Her body had decomposed some and was bloated. It was greenish in color at that point. Her clothes had come off and were floating in the tank. Her watch and room key were also in the tank. Toxicology tests did not show any illicit drugs, only her medications for her bipolar disorder, plus ibuprofen and a sinus medication. It was felt that she had not been taking her full dosages of medications according to the amounts in her system. And this is a very common thing with bipolar, too, is you feel better.
So you stopped taking
So
your
you
meds.
stopped taking your medication, but you felt better because the medication was working, and it can be very and that's true with depression and stuff too. It's very cyclical sometimes. With the video footage of her strange behavior having gone viral, many had theories as to how she died. Murder was top of the list, of course, though after the way she behaved in that elevator, and after we all watched it for, it was like 2 weeks or something before they found her. There was and also the fact that her clothes were off worded people out. Turns out that's not uncommon in a water death.
But can you imagine being that guy, that custodian?
No.
Opening that up, and there's a fucking dead body staring face up at you.
And so floaters, as they call them, right, are the worst kind of dead body to deal with. And it would have been quite ripe at that time. So it would have been nasty. It would have been traumatic.
I would have fallen off the ladder.
Yeah. Yeah. There was also some sort of sandy particulate on her clothing, which some felt meant her clothes had been removed and dropped on the roof before ending up in the tank. But it could have been on her feet and ended up, it's been floating in a water tank for 2 or...
She could have fallen.
Yeah,
I mean...
Exactly. Tripped on the way up there.
Yep.
Yeah. What made it all the stranger was that roof access was locked, and only employees had access via key or passcode. The external doors had alarms, so anyone getting through them should have set off the alarms. The alarms would go off at the desk and in the top 2 floors of the hotel. So it's not discreet, basically. The only way up that did not require an employee was via the fire escape on the outside. We're talking the rickety metal ladder on the outside of the building. Police dogs had lost her scent at that window that accessed those stairs.
Oh.
Yeah. But when they were taken up on the roof, they had not picked up her scent, which is why people argued, well, that means somebody carried her. Yeah, you're right.
Course.
Somebody carried her up a fire ladder.
A fire escape, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's possible.
Sure, vaguely. Except there's nobody else. Just like with poor Kanika, right? There's nobody else in the footage ever. And I'm surprised people haven't said this, or maybe they have, that the video was altered like they did in the other case. And it also questioned how she got into the large water tank to begin with. Because the Santiago had to bring a ladder to it.
Right.
So nobody knows how she got in the water tank. Anyway, it was shown the lid was open when he got there. So, because people kept saying, well, she couldn't have closed this big lid over her if she was floating in water. She didn't. It was open. So that kind of that was one of the conspiracy theory things. But anyway, the tank was high. And so it's tricky. How did she get in there? Some even suggested she'd been killed by some sort of evil ghost or demonic spirit, because this was a very old building, of course. Sadly, a death metal musician who lived or stayed there at some point, but not while she was there, to be very clear, was accused of being responsible by web sleuths, and they actually made his life a living hell. Oh, and that is why I'm not going to give his name.
Good.
I get that people can find it, but there is a Netflix, I think, documentary about this, and they interview this poor guy, and I mean, people turned on him. They felt he was a murderer. He was like, I wasn't even living there then. I was there until whenever before this. Right. But they really went after him hard because death metal, and they decided he was like a Satanist and all this bullshit. So, bizarrely, one theory involved her having been sent into Skid Row infected with tuberculosis in order to thin out the surrounding homeless population. Hey, I wrote a horror story about the government killing off homeless people, but not in that way.
So,
there's more to that.
Tuberculosis. Was she spitting on the sidewalk a lot?
Just licking everybody she walks by.
Yeah, I'm like, I don't think, unless she is spitting on the ground or on other people. I mean, tuberculosis isn't...
No, I actually had a friend who had tuberculosis in high school.
That killed my mother's father.
Okay, yeah.
So...
I was... At that time, when I met this, I thought they were kidding, right? Because I was like, what? I mean, that's a thing that happened in the past. People don't have that. Yeah, they do. They do have that still. So, but, I mean, they were fine at that point, but they were still considered a carrier or something. Anyway. So, in fact, a tuberculosis outbreak did occur around the time of her death. This is why this conjecture happened. In addition, there's a TB test called the Lam Elisa. Spelled exactly the same as her name, so it's her name flipped, Lam-Elisa. And her college is known for TB research. So these people looked at all this and went, oh, she was sent in there to kill homeless people. Okay. These people theorized the government sent her in, then killed her after she'd infected everyone in order to cover up their crime. Ultimately, her death was found to be due to accidental drowning, facilitated by bipolar disorder. And again, probably unmedicated bipolar disorder. They were just getting the remnants of her medications in her system. She also had too many pills remaining in the prescription bottles, which were still in her room, which further indicated she was either under-medicating or had completely stopped at that time. So this has not stopped conspiracy theorists from continuing to sleuth her death and claim murder. I think because that video became so viral, it's not going to die for a long, long time.
Yeah.
No matter what, the situation and events leading to her death are bizarre. Another odd detail is that her blog continued updating after her appearance, but it's because she pre-scheduled posts.
Oh, yeah.
I do the same thing, but it's creepy when you've lost a loved one and their freaking blog keeps updating, can't do anything about it. Her phone was never found. This is another interesting detail. They never found her phone. Her laptop was in her room. Her meds were in her room. All of her belongings were in her room.
So
her phone was not there, and it was not found.
But that to me is easily explained.
Somebody picked it up and took it.
Yeah, if she was carrying it around and dropped it, somebody picked it up and said, "Does this belong to anyone?" No? Okay.
It's mine now.
Yeah.
Low-cost housing. So yeah, I totally agree. That one, I don't think there's anything duplicitous about that.
No.
Somebody insinuated that whoever had taken her phone was posting the blog post, and it was like, no, she pre-scheduled them. That's a thing.
Yeah.
Her family sued the hotel, but the suit was ultimately dismissed in 2015. Several of the guests at the time also sued them because they drank dead people water.
Yeah.
Yeah. Before her trip, Alyssa was a student at the University of British Columbia, also known for its tuberculosis research. She had not suffered suicidal ideation previously, but had disappeared for a brief time and did have a history of going off her meds and suffering hallucinations because of that. Her hallucinations often had to do with someone pursuing or threatening her. So if she was hallucinating somebody when she was in that elevator, that would actually explain a lot of what happened. And with her trying to push the elevator to get the doors to close and it not closing for some reason, it kind of makes sense she'd keep poking her head out or whatever. But, I mean, sometimes when you watch the footage, it's like, it's eerie, but then you're like, is she playing? Or is she genuinely scared? It's really hard to tell. And she had been hospitalized because of that. She was also known to, hide under her bed, hide somewhere else when somebody was following her.
So she may have been trying to hide.
Yes. It sounds like if you're evading a person and you've got nowhere else to go and you think they're between you and the exit and the elevator's not working, maybe you go out onto the fire escape and go to the roof. And maybe you crawl into a water tank if you see them following you. We'll never know.
Yeah, no.
Right. When she checked into the Cecil Hotel, she was first in a shared room, so I assume it's kind of like a hostel situation where people who were because she was a young woman traveling by herself. She'd taken Amtrak down from Canada. And so anyway, she was in a shared room, but her roommates had complained about her behaving oddly, and she'd been moved to a solo room. So again, this just confirms for me she was off her meds. The odd behavior included her locking her roommates out and making them tell her a password to get in. And she was leaving them notes that said stuff like, go home, go away, and just sticking it on their stuff.
I can relate to that.
Right? She was actually kicked out of a taping of Conan in Burbank due to disruptive behavior. I couldn't find what the disruptive behavior was. So it does appear clear, again, that she was suffering some mental health issues at the time. And what's unfortunate to me is that since she was alone and she wasn't with loved ones, and this was people looking from the outside in who didn't know she was bipolar, that nobody did anything about it. Nobody reported it to her family because they didn't know. Well, I can't blame them, but it's so sad because if somebody who knew her had been there, or sensed it.
And you can't look at someone and go, they look bipolar.
Yeah, no, that's not how that works at all. Yeah. So, it's sad. Neither of these needed to happen.
Yeah.
And that's what kills me, is that these two young women who were going to probably make something of themselves,
Yeah.
and lead maybe, hopefully, good lives, just one because of mental health issues, one because of possibly an interaction between alcohol and a medication that somebody either slipped them or they took, they're just dead.
Yep.
Just like that.
Gone.
And it's just, I don't know. It seems senseless. So, and her parents here's the thing, she was calling them every day and talking to them, but she seemed normal on the phone. But that's a very short time, and you can focus your behavior for a very short time.
Yeah.
We do for this podcast once a week. But I'm not wrong. So anyway, it was her not calling that day that had made them figure out that she was missing. It was the day she was supposed to be leaving. And so they contacted the hotel and the police. A mental health expert said her behavior in those final days was consistent with a psychotic state suffered by someone with bipolar disorder. As her sister had mentioned Alyssa hiding from unseen pursuers in past episodes, police felt she'd been in this psychotic state, thought someone was pursuing her like we've talked about, and therefore tried to evade them by climbing up the fire escape and trying to hide in the water tank. There would have been no easy way out once she was inside.
No. Oh, God.
Yep. And so there's no conjecture on how long she was in there, how long it took her to drown, So who knows? One of the last people to see her alive was the owner of a nearby bookstore where Alyssa had visited before her death. She had chatted with the owner, telling her she was buying books to take home to family as gifts, as it was her last day in California.
Oh.
This woman said that Alyssa was friendly and lively and excited to be going home. Sadly, she never got that chance. So, my sources were Wikipedia, CBS News, Caso Criminal, Newsweek, The Crime Wire, BBC News, The Teal Mango, the U.S. Sun, Men's Health. Men's Health actually had a good article on it. And Ranker. Men's Health.
Men's Health used to... I haven't... Joe subscribed to it for a while. And it used to have some really interesting stuff. There was one, it was advice from a bartender. Those were always fun to read.
I bet.
It did. It had some really interesting articles in it. And I was like, you could subscribe to this forever as far as I'm concerned, because there's some very, very pretty people in here. I don't mind that being on the coffee table.
I mean, Men's Health. There were some healthy men, right?
They certainly were.
They were healthy.
They were healthy. So, all right. So I don't have anything quite so mysterious, but it's kind of bonkers. So
Yay.
It's mostly mayhem. I just, you know me, I'm way into the mayhem. So I'm going to talk about the mad dentist of Windward Square.
I love a mad dentist as long as he's not operating on me.
Exactly. So I'm taking us back to Australia. Why? Why was I obsessed with Australia for a couple of weeks? I got to scroll down because I wrote this No, I did. It must have been when I was doing the last one that it came up. Because I'm like, no, it's not my True Crime a Day calendar, which I hope someone gets me another one.
Hint, hint.
Hint, hint.
Someone.
So we're back in Australia for some murder and some mayhem. This time in 1865. So, the gold rush was over, because apparently every country had a gold rush. The bush rangers were still active. So, if you're like me...
Sounds dirty.
Yeah. They were analogous to Old West outlaws.
I like them already.
Just in Australia. So, in the U.S., the Civil War ended and Lincoln was assassinated. So, it was a big year. In Sydney, there was a young dentist named Henry Louis Bertrand. He came from a long line of dentists, including his father, who changed his name from Lipschutz to Buckland to Bertrand before his death at the age of 31.
Huh.
That's a lot of name changes. So he was trying to get away from I believe it said from the Jewish-sounding Lipschutz.
Yeah, Lipschutz.
So he went to Buckland. I don't know why he didn't stick with that and then went to Bertrand. They did, though, have dentists on like both sides of the family. That was just the family business. Everybody was involved in it.
It's not a bad business if you don't mind saliva.
And staring into people's mouths. Henry Bertrand's mother and sisters emigrated to Sydney. And I'm like, that's such a big... From Europe to Sydney. That's like the entire other side of the planet.
But it's super common.
I know, it is. It was so funny after reading all of this. Once they got to Sydney, they made what were called favorable matches. So she met someone and married someone who was well-to-do, and the girls all married, doctors and lawyers. And so Henry practiced dentistry in London, Brussels, possibly Paris, before joining his family in Sydney. So as soon as he arrived, he made a splash by advertising himself as the dentist to the Emperor of France, which would have been Napoleon, who we were just talking about earlier today.
That's right.
So, and people, now they're saying, no, the chances are very slim that he ever was a dentist to Napoleon. But
did Napoleon even have a dentist? Well, he had all his teeth, maybe. I haven't heard he didn't.
I have no idea. But, I mean, who's going to fact check him back then in 1865?
Nobody.
He went into practice with his stepfather and later took over the practice. And in 1863, he married Jane King, and together they had a son and a daughter. So, nice life. Enter Ellen and Henry Kinder. So, his name is Henry Bertrand. This guy's name is Henry Kinder, so I start calling them by their last names because I was like, there are too freaking many Henrys.
Henry the First, Henry the Second.
There's only two, but that's too many. So, Ellen and Henry Kinder. I actually wrote enter, stage right. Yes.
Were they German?
That's the way I write things. Ellen was one of Bertrand's patients, and apparently they passed folded notes to each other when they shook hands, like at the beginning of their appointments. How do you do, madam? How lovely to see you again. And they had the little folded up piece of paper in their hands that they passed back and forth.
Cute. Yeah.
Yeah. Her husband, Henry Kinder, was an alcoholic banker who had immigrated from England in 1860, who it would appear did not pay a lot of attention to his wife. He apparently didn't notice when his wife began a torrid affair with Henry Bertrand. And the couple, Bertrand and Ellen, they were just so brazen about meeting up. Apparently he just totally ruled his household completely, and they met at his house. They met at her house, where her husband was too drunk to notice. And it said that Jane was too afraid of her husband to oppose him. So, and I'm like, what? Can you imagine how miserable she must have been?
Yeah.
That's just, I can't even. I wish he was alive so I could slap him. Compounding the tangled web, a former lover of Ellen's, whose name was Frank Jackson, he was a sheep farmer, lived in the Kinder's home with them. Sure, honey, your ex can move in. One article
More
said,
the merrier.
Yeah, one article said that he taught Ellen Kinder how to drink. That's a weird... I'm like, did she spill it down herself? I don't know. So at some point, Bertrand decided he needed to get rid of his lover's husband. So first of all, he dressed up in his wife's clothing, so he looked like a woman, and purchased a gun. He wasn't as cold-blooded as he thought he was, so there were several botched attempts before he finally shot Kinder, although he didn't kill him. Shot him in the head, but didn't kill him. Bertrand actually attended to the wound, applied first aid, and called for medical help, and explained to the responding doctor that Kinder was depressed and tried to kill himself. And that flew for a while. I'm so sorry, I don't know how he shot himself in the back of the head. Nobody ever
Why I
explained.
have gunpowder burns and he has none.
Again, 1865. So I'm just like, so you're trying to kill this man who is married to your lover, and when you botch it, you apply first aid and save his life.
Well, but doesn't that mean you're not as big as, like, you're not a psychopath or whatever? Because you're like, shit, because somebody's dying.
But he didn't give up.
Oh.
He acquired some belladonna, mixed it with milk, and had Ellen give it to her husband. So this finally did the trick. Kinder was dead, and for some reason the coroner ruled it a suicide. Because, that's how I would want to go. Belladonna and milk. I'm sorry. For anybody who doesn't know, I'm lactose intolerant. So if you ever see me ordering a big glass of milk, it's either because I'm extremely angry and I'm planning on some heavy-duty crop dusting later.
Right?
Or I'm under duress.
Like, are you mad at me?
And trying to signal, look, I'm drinking milk. I used to, when Thing 2 was in high school and she would be having a very bad day, I'm like, sometimes she would call me or she'd message me and I'd be like, sweetie, you say the word. I will chug a glass of milk and I can be there in 10 minutes. I will crop dust the hell out of these people for you. That's probably more than anybody needed to know.
A mother's love.
A mother's gas. I'm like, where was I? Oh, okay. So the coroner ruled it a suicide, and Ellen immediately moved into the Bertrand household, even sharing the bed with Henry and Jane.
Ew, no.
Yeah.
Unless...
move over.
Okay, wait. No king shaming. Like, if everybody's a party to that is different. But I'm saying ew, because here's this wife.
She was so...
cowed.
Cowed, yes. That she could not object. She was so scared of her husband.
Right. If all adults are a party to this, fantastic.
Thruples are fine.
But no, that's so shitty. And I imagine they're having sex with her in the bed.
Ew.
Not okay.
No, not okay. So this did eventually come out during the trial, and it just shocked the people of Sydney. It was a huge scandal. Bertrand wasn't done. So he had contacted Ellen's other lover, Frank Jackson, made threats against him, and paid him to leave town.
Insecure a bit.
It's all a class act. So Jackson left, but when he heard about Kinder's death, he popped back up. He reached out to Bertrand and tried to blackmail him, threatening to tell the police. So here's where it gets even weirder. Bertrand went to the police and reported the blackmail attempt, and Frank Jackson ended up serving a year in prison for blackmail.
Oh.
Which, I mean, he was guilty of.
He was.
He did.
Other dude killed somebody.
The police eventually reopened the case.
Okay.
It wasn't immediate, but they did eventually reopen the case. But it was partially based on Jackson's charges. The body was exhumed and poison was found. So police charged Henry, Jane, and Ellen with murder. So Jane was quickly exonerated and was declared to be a victim of mesmerism and mind control. They thought because where he practiced was in a very Tony, high society part of town. This was the thing. After this all came out, women were like, yes, he mesmerized me. He was trying to use mind control on me.
As happens. As you do.
As one does. So Jane, later migrated to New Zealand. Ellen was released due to lack of evidence. I don't believe that Ellen was blameless in all this, but due to lack of evidence, she was originally from New Zealand. She later returned to New Zealand, remarried, and then moved to San Francisco.
Oh.
Bertrand.
Talk about across the world.
Right. Bertrand, on the other hand, was convicted of murder and served 28 years. Part of that was in an asylum for the criminally insane.
Oh.
So, I don't know what landed him there.
Yeah, because I think he was quite conscious of what he was doing. But
believe,
maybe they were like, he has to be crazy to have done these things.
So, when he was released in 1894, he was deported back to London.
Uh-huh.
Now, how often How often does Australia have a criminal so bad they send him back to England? He was deported back to London, where he resumed his dental practice.
Oh, God.
Right? I mean, that's who I want poking around my gums.
Is that belladonna you're putting in my mouth, sir?
He also acquired a new mistress who died under mysterious circumstances in 1909.
Of course
It did not mention a hatchet, because I would tell you if it did.
Yeah, it's probably belladonna because he learned it worked.
Yeah, or who knows? He
drowned in her tub, fell down the stairs. Let's make a list.
Fell on a loaded pistol. It goes on. So yeah, that was I just love the dentist aspect of this. I don't know why.
Yeah, it's like, was that horror? It ended up being, I think there's 3 of them or something. The Dentist.
Yeah.
Horror film. Did they base it on this guy, or are there enough horror dentists? I wrote a whole story around the fact that I found out dentists used to put the teeth in walls. They would just put a hole there, just like the razor blades, used to be.
Yep.
But there were teeth in the walls, and I was like, oh my God, that's so creepy. I love it. And I had to write a story about that.
And can you imagine if you didn't know this used to be a dentist office and you're doing a little light remodeling and you open a hole in the wall and all these fucking teeth fall out. So I have a question. I may have asked you this before.
Uh-oh.
Did you keep your children's baby teeth?
Totally didn't. I did for a little bit, and then I went, why the fuck am I keeping these? And then I just started throwing them away. And then I found out you could extract the...
Well, yes.
Yes, but that was after they were older.
So I knew people who kept them. Mm-hmm. And I always looked at them and said, what the fuck are you going to do with them?
My parents handed me them in the old black and gray film canister.
Oh, yeah?
We each had our own black and gray film canister with the teeth, and they handed them to me, and I went, huh. And I kept them for a little while, then I threw them away, and I think that's about the time I went, I'm not keeping my kids' teeth.
No, I was like, because there had been 2 times when Joe looked at me and said, are we supposed to keep this? One of them was baby teeth, and I was like, I looked at him and I said, what the hell are we going to keep them for? Because I know people who've opened up the old metal Band-Aid tins and spill out all these baby teeth. And I'm like...
But now, just so everybody knows, in case you haven't heard it, you can keep them for, I think you can get stem cells or whatever from that. I don't remember. Yeah. But you can get stuff that you might need genetically should there be a problem in the future. Yes. So keep them now. Hand them to your kids so they can use them if something happens.
Here you go.
But, no, I was like, I'm not keeping these teeth. I've seen those dolls, right? They have those dolls that they put the teeth in and then give them to the kid.
Which I think is creepy as fuck, and I kind of love it.
Yes, it's both.
Well, the other time Joe asked me that was when Thing 1 was a baby, and her belly button stub fell off.
Uh-huh. And you keep it at first.
And he looks at me and he goes, what do we do with it? And I looked at him and I said, what do you mean? And he goes, are we supposed to keep it?
Uh-huh.
And I was like, why? And he goes, I don't know. Are you going to scrapbook it maybe? It's like, hell no. I was like, there's a trash can right there. I'm like, why would I keep her belly button stub?
Gross. Okay, but when I was a kindergarten paraprofessional, and one of the kids was like, I'm going to bring in my umbilical cord. And we kept saying, please don't. And I think he called it was like his umbilical cord. But he kept saying he was going to bring it in. And we're like, no.
That's medical waste.
Don't. Yeah, pretty much, right? Like some steward, don't push him away with your foot. Don't bring it. And then it finally turned out it was his stub. But still... as he's telling us he's bringing his umbilical cord, we're picturing the whole bloody placenta being kept in somebody's sock drawer. I remember talking to the teacher about it, what the fuck is he going to bring in? What do you think it is?
I almost would have wanted him just to see what it was.
No. But yeah, he brings in his stump, here you go, everybody. And I'm like, what? What the parent said? You want to take in your umbilical stump?
To school for show and tell. Well, I remember when Thing 1 was being born, the doctor, thinking I don't know what the fuck he was thinking, turns to Joe and says, do you want to cut the cord? And Joe looks him right in the eye and says, what am I paying you for? I think we have snappy comebacks in tense situations. That's what the whole family is known for.
My dad had trouble with blood. And I think that he did it each time, though, but
I need to say my sources were Crimes of Passion from the Sydney Living Museum, the Dictionary of Sydney.com, and AustraliaBlogspot.com.
All right. And thank you guys for listening. Bye, you guys.
Talk to you next week. Thank you for listening to Mysteries, Monsters, and Mayhem.
Find us on Facebook and Instagram or at our website, mysteriesmonstersmayhem.com.
Please like, rate, and review, follow, and share wherever your favorite podcasts are downloaded.
Thank you for listening and supporting our podcast. We'll be back next week with more shenanigans.